Welcome back. High street shops, banks and offices have remained closed in Guinea's capital and other cities following the first day of an open-ended strike. Union leaders want the government to lower prices on basic commodities and fuel. Markets which are normally bustling with people were shut down, with only a handful of service stations open in the city centre. The strike also saw public transport grind to a halt.
Tous ces partis politiques, c'est eux qui nous ont foutus dans cette merde.
All these political parties, they are the ones that put us in this mess. They voted for the various financial laws. They knew it would create problems, but they voted for them anyway. We are accusing the government, but personally, I'm accusing the National Assembly.
Based on the current state of our finances, we cannot afford to lose what little income we have, which includes the taxes on petroleum products. Since there is no investment at the moment, we are still in the post-Ebola phase, and many of the businesses that left because of the Ebola haven't returned. Investment slowed down. We lost more than $1 trillion in custom revenue in the last year. We don't have the resources to take another cut in the limited resources we do have.
Now it's been 5 years since the ousting of Colonel Gaddafi in Libya, with many people there now losing hope that the rule of law will return to the divided country. Islamic State has exploited the chaos engulfing the oil-rich North African nation. Last June, it seized Gaddafi's coastal hometown of Sirte and has since transformed it into a training camp for Libyan and foreign militants. Despite the jihadist threat, there are also signs of hope on the political front.
The revolution achieved a lot of goals. We speak now and we feel the freedom, and every revolution needs time anyway, like the French Revolution, and we have big hopes.
We, the people of Benghazi, when we started the revolution, we thought that we will live in comfort and happiness. But we were disappointed for 5 years, as we face hunger and lack of salaries. The country is destroyed.
None of the revolution goals was achieved. Prices, health and education all stayed the same.
Syria's president has poured cold water on an internationally backed plan for a ceasefire due to start later this week. He says it would be difficult to implement. It's after proposals were put forward last week by world leaders in Munich for a so-called cessation of hostilities.
Up until now, they are saying they want a ceasefire in a week. Who is capable of gathering all the conditions and requirements in a week? No one. For me, if there is a ceasefire, that doesn't mean that everyone will stop using weapons. That's the narrow sense of the word. A truce will mostly entail no longer strengthening terrorist positions and keeping them from moving weapons, ammunition, or terrorists.
Now, the head of the European Parliament has said he cannot guarantee it will back Britain's EU reform deal. The comments by Martin Schulz will come as a blow to the British Prime Minister David Cameron, who's in Brussels to drum up support for his push to secure agreement on changes ahead of an in-out referendum. Now, in Clacton-on-Sea, which has a reputation for being Britain's most Eurosceptic town, many residents are desperate to leave the European Union. Here's more.
Welcome to Clacton-on-Sea, known as England's most Eurosceptic town. With its mostly ageing white working-class voters, the seaside resort is home to Britain's only MP from the anti-EU UK Independence Party.
I don't believe we should stay in Europe because I feel they're taking the mickey out of us, and they rule us from there, and this is my country, it is not Europe's country.
Forget the renegotiation, forget everything, just get out of Europe. You know, let's go on our own, where we always have been.
Prime Minister David Cameron has been on a tour of European capitals, trying to broker a reform deal ahead of a Crunch EU summit in Brussels this week. The deal is aimed at avoiding a Brexit in the in-out referendum expected later this year. Cameron wants assurances that the goal of an ever closer union in Europe will not apply to Britain. And immigration is also a key concern, with the Prime Minister pushing for an emergency break to limit welfare payments for newly arrived European migrants for 4 years.
There's some safeguards which are likely to come out to protect the single market against any integration in the Eurozone. There'll be some tweaks on migrants' benefits. But really, it's not anything major. The big question for Cameron is whether he is able to sell it as something major, and whether both to the public at large and also to his own MPs.
Campaigners against Brexit argue EU membership means a stronger economy, creating jobs, trade and investment. And they point out that 45% of all British exports go to the EU.
There are a lot of people out there who don't know a great deal about the European Union. They don't know a lot about what it does, and they don't know a lot about the benefits it brings to them and their families. It means jobs in this country. It means lower prices in the shops.
Helping Britain stronger in Europe.
Opinion polls across Britain suggest a close race, with 52% of people wanting to stay in Europe against 48% opting to leave. And voters will soon know if Cameron's negotiations have been well received by the rest of the 28-member bloc, or if they've ended up in the gutter.
Now, in sport news, the Royal Moroccan Football Federation has officially appointed Hervé Renard as the head coach for the national team. The French coach, who was recently sacked from his post as Lille manager, will succeed former manager Isaki Badou. Renard has won the Africa Cup of Nations twice as manager with Zambia and the Ivory Coast.
Allow me today to present Mr. Hervé Renard as the new coach of Morocco's national team, coach of the local national team and coach of the Olympics team, in collaboration with technical management.
Je suis ravi d'avoir été nommé.
I am delighted to have been appointed as coach for Morocco's national team. The president has already laid out the objectives ahead of us. The first objective, of course, is to qualify for the 2017 African Cup, which is soon. And before that, there's the qualifying rounds for the 2018 World Cup. So, we have a busy schedule.
I think the decision made by the Moroccan Royal Football Federation to appoint Hervé Renard in charge of the Atlas Lions is a very good thing, given the track record of this coach who knows all about African football. He's traveled around, he was the deputy of Claude Leroy, the White Sorcerer, who has done so much for African football, and he's won title with Zambia and the Ivory Coast.
Now for a bit of good news. Benin's Angelique Kidjo, one of Africa's most prominent musicians, has won her third Grammy and dedicated it to aspiring artists on the continent. The singer, who's now based in New York, won the Grammy for Best World Music Album for Sings, which is a collection of her songs infused with Western classical traditions. She collaborated with the Philharmonic Orchestra in Luxembourg for the record. Her album beat one by Malawi's Zomba Prison Project and South Africa's Lady Smith Black Mambazo. Here's a look back at some of our top stories this evening. Uganda's presidential contenders hold their final rallies ahead of Thursday's vote. Al-Shabaab says it was behind a car bomb that killed a former defence minister in Mogadishu. And Angelique Kidjo takes home her third Grammy. And that's all from us at Vox News for now. Thanks for watching.